And should I say good Sunday? It is coming to you live from the city of Amsterdam. And I think that at this point, we could pretty much say that the lockdown issues and everything and quarantine is sort of half of over, but we are still at it. Anyway, you're listening to High Radio coming to you live from the city of Amsterdam, and it's just a few minutes past 7:30 in the evening on my side of the world. That is, I don't know what time it is, around your bit, but I would really, really like to know. And that's why I would really, from wherever in the world that you are listening in or listening from, make sure that you let me know from which town, what country, what region are you tuning in from? Because I always love to hear from people that are listening to the High Radio. This is Africa Unfocused Lockdown Sessions, and I'm your host, Miss Abba, coming to you again live from the city of Amsterdam. Today we have a very interesting topic that we are going to talk about. It's going to be super engaging. It's going to be you're going to learn. You're going to be inspired. Maybe you'll even cry a bit. I don't know. It depends. But today we have, again, our monthly special, which is a Women About Business, a monthly talk led by myself and Kimberly Ofori. And later on, we will be having our special guest who goes by the name of Marian Spier, a social entrepreneur, consultant, CEO, and founder of TEDxAmsterdamWomen and FEM-START. An accelerator program for women entrepreneurs. And today we are going to talk about social entrepreneurship and how to make it work. The thing is, when it comes to business and women, it is very, very important. Because did you know that Africa is the only continent of which more than half of the entrepreneurs are women? The relative of amount of African entrepreneurs that we really have is way, way, way much more. But the problem is we're not always on the forefront. There's a lot of work to be done. There is a lot of a lot to learn, of course. For many of us entrepreneurs, it is all about getting to that next step. And for some of us entrepreneurs, it's all about, how can I professionalize things so that it can be competitive on an international level? Let me put this right. So if you are listening to Africa on Focus or High Radio at this moment, please make sure that you share it on your timeline. We're going to spread enough of the word around so that anybody could tune in and anybody that could be part of the conversation. It's not just a women only talk that is going to happen today. Absolutely not. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a bit about the Newsflash that we have had going on, throughout throughout the week. Crazy things are happening in this world. I earlier saw today a meme on Instagram, and somebody said, you know what? Jesus, come and collect us all, because this is already going in a bit too much, as you would say. And people are already going crazy, or at least that is what people are saying. And before that happens, I think there's also has been a lot going on the continent, and a lot to celebrate, a lot to learn, as we would say. And as we are learning, we should also dive into what else could be taught, what else are the things that we could take notes from, how else can we learn, and so on and so on. All of that should be very much considered. In a bit, my co-host Kimberly Ofori is going to come on line with me to talk about Women About Business, and specifically, we are going to talk about social entrepreneurship. But first, let's talk about what's going on in Africa. Oh, before I just want to give a shout out to one of our faithful listeners, the Nekwesi, who always tunes in. He always spread the word, and he's always like excited to share about the show, and he's always engaging. So I just want to give a shout out to you, and also give a shout out to our two producers, Slim who's always holding it down from wherever his studio is at. And also a very big shout out to Royal, who is the CEO, owner of High Radio, and has been making sure things have been kept running. This is Lockdown Session, and I am your host, Miss.ABA, Africa Unfocused. We should talk about what's going on. But first, don't forget to share. Don't forget to let everybody know that today is Women About Business time. And with Women About Business is where we're going to talk about what's going on the continent, women, entrepreneurship, and all of that. A lot of things have been going on in our world, but before we will do that, I will just show you just a small commercial because a lot of people, I just got the comment from somebody that said, you know what, as it comes to the show and all of that, sometimes I don't know which is which, which show comes on, what are we exactly going to talk about and things like that. And so just to make sure that we don't get any mishaps or any confusion on that, let me just share this so that becomes clear, and that we have no confusion on what this show is really about. If you are listening again, feel free to share, spread the word, make sure that everybody listens and has a taste of what's going on. So let me just peek and share this commercial that is going on, so that you have a bit of an idea of what Africa on Focus is all about. And with that said, let's go to the news flash of this week. What's been going on? What's been going on in your environment? I know on the side of the states, if we look at the states, we have like a partial lockdown. I also hear from Ghana, from our fellow Ghanaians, that lockdown is also going on over there. As a matter of fact, I read an official statement from one of our earlier guests that we had on, that the president has gone on to be on a particular, or let's just say he has been quarantining himself, or he is going to, because somebody in his environment have been has been diagnosed with coronavirus. And with that said, he is going to take extra measures to make sure that he doesn't get the virus, just like who is it, the president of the United Kingdom, but he ensures that his health is okay. So he has decided that he's going to go on lockdown. I think in Ghana, on every Sunday evening, all of our Ghanaians look forward to having the address of the president, and to look forward to what other measures will be taken and what other things will be going on. And I think he is really leading by example, and making a decision to go on lockdown, take care of his health, and to ensure that his health and safety is 100% insured, so that the rest of people could follow. Because we had Palgrave Boachidankwa on the show, and who actually dared to make the statement that Ghana is going to go on lockdown again. And Palgrave's predictions were very much on point. Ghana is going to go on lockdown. So we are really looking forward to this period of going to the lockdown before the borders finally open. And that is really, really, really important, that everybody stays in good health, and that everybody stays sane as well. So I would really like to know, how are you doing wherever you are in the world? I would really like to hear from you. I would really like to know where you're tuning in from. And in the meantime, continue to share and spread the word on your timeline. This is a special edition. I call it the lockdown session since we have been on lockdown since when was this? Since I think March. And so, even at the studio, we are moving to a better location. And also, we had to go on lockdown and take the needed measures concerning to make sure that our health and our safety, everybody at the studio, stays in health. So I just took it upon myself. You know what? I am going to bring out all of the episodes that I bring on from home. So here we are. And this has been a very, very interesting period. Myself and my co-host Donnie, we have been engaging with some of the most inspiring Africans, global Africans around the world that are making waves, making change, and doing absolutely fantastic work. One of my highlights, and that was the one on Mother's Day, that we had an interview with Dinta Amwateng, MBE. She is one of my own role models, and she is not just connected to royalty, but she facilitates anything as in terms of business, empowerment, entertainment between the UK and Ghana. And it was so much fun engaging with her. Johnny was even serenaded on his birthday, so that was really, really cool. Which, by the way, the podcast is out on wherever it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on SoundCloud. You can get it there, and also you could rewatch the show on our YouTube channel, Africa in Focus. Plus, another highlight of this lockdown sessions or lockdown season has also been our conversation with Dr. Sabine. Dr. Sabine Fonderson is an expert. We had her earlier on the show to talk about, her platform, Hello Doc, an online platform where you could basically have an appointment with your GP through an app. And her and her team provide, the right help that they could offer from a distance, because obviously it is through an app. And it was so good to have her back on the show. And while the all of the craziness surrounding coronavirus, COVID-19, however you want to call it, was going on, she really took the time out to to really dive into the myths, the lies, the theories, and everything surrounding COVID-19, and we had to set the record straight. And also, for our own community, because at some point people were thinking, oh, Black people cannot get COVID-19, and it was such a good conversation with her, talking to her about what's really truth about all of this, what's really, really something that we should look forward to. So I hope to have her back on the show anywhere the coming period, so that we could again look at what should we be mindful of as it pertains to our health. I've also heard of people talking, washing your hands or what's it called, using sanitizers seems not to be all of that, all of the solutions. So we're going to have a part 2 of that conversation again, where we will dive into the myths, the truths, and the facts regarding COVID-19. You're still listening to Africa on Focus, and in a bit, let's just say within the coming 15 minutes, we will be heading on to the main subject of our show, and that is our monthly segment, hashtag Women About Business, where myself and my co-host, my colleague Kimberly Ofori, we get to talk to women of impact who each are driving change within their environment, within their community, and of course, doing that for the African continent. And we have a very special guest that we announced earlier before, Marian Spier, and we will be talking to her about how does social entrepreneurship work? How does that even evolve in this current time? And mind you, I just shared earlier a very important fact about women entrepreneurship as it relates to the continent. We're the only continent that have as much relative women entrepreneurs as we do. So you have to really understand that, you know, that T-shirt, that quote where they say the future is woman, or the future is female, something like that, is so relevant, especially for the African continent. So that's why we're here. And later on, we will be talking to her about that. I just want to dive into what's been going on our continent. So many things that I've run up to. Shout out to Quartz Africa, and shout out to Move Me Back. Move Me Back is a platform for all of our diasporans or Africans that, you know, are seeking to work at an international company, or to seek to work on and from the continent. And on movemeback.com, you could go and check it out. There is where you could find anything relating to webinars, information, even vacancies. And very soon, I am proud to announce a very special collaboration that I have with them, or partnership that I have with this platform. Shout out to them for providing relevant news regarding our continent. Because they, in one of their newsletters, they shared obviously the highlights of this week, and we talked about it. This is behind, you know, this is behind the scenes. By the way, we talked about really what's been going on the continent, and how we can continue to reach Africans, global Africans, as I would call them, so that they could all come back to the continent and do something, because that is really, really the goal that we're trying to, the goal that I am also trying to reach, so that the community that is residing here in the Netherlands, you know, could have a more taste of how does international work, how does that go about, how important is it to utilize the network that you have, and so on. So stay tuned for that announcement. First things first, on the Newsflash, COVID-19 cases are low in Africa due to strong leadership. What does that mean? WHO Africa director says that they have trained 10,000 health workers in Africa as part of decentralization of virus response. I would really like to know what parts of Africa they mean, because we always say, you know what, Africa is a continent. It is not one country. People should stop saying that, you know, Africa is one place and all of that. Shout out to Eben. Shout out to you. And also shout out to Nene McRich. Shout out to Don Alvis. Sorry, I just couldn't help it. I saw them logging in, and I really had to say, really had to say hi. But anyway, how is, you know, COVID-19, how is that managed on our continent? So many things is what we're hearing on a global scale. I think that people are surprised that, you know, our continent isn't the biggest victim of the craziness that goes on in this world. Let me just put it that way. Coronavirus cases in Africa remain lower than in some other parts of the world due to strong country leadership. The World Health Organization, also known as WHO, regional director for Africa said on last Thursday, and Africa has just 1.5% of the world's reported cases of COVID-19 and less than 0.1% of the world's death, according to the UN Health Agency. In her words, with strong country leadership and implementation of social and public health measures, cases in Africa remain lower than in some other parts of the world. Dr. Matshidiso Moeti told a joint media briefing with WHO and the World Economic Forum. However, we cannot let our guard down, and we cannot be complacent. Yesterday marked 3 months since the first COVID-19 case was reported in sub-Saharan Africa in Nigeria. And in this time, governments have been working day and night with support from WHO and our partners to contain the spread of the virus, she said. And more than 5,000 people across Africa tested positive for COVID-19 over the last 24 hours, marking the continent's highest single-day spike to date, according to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. A lot of statistics, a lot of numbers. Oof. And new cases have pushed the overall count up to 124,000 plus, with 51,000 plus recoveries and about 3,600 deaths. Overall, we are seeing more people dying in the older age groups, and though we are seeing a larger population of cases among those who are younger, Mueti says. And she added that so far the WHO has trained more than 10,000 health workers in Africa as part of the decentralization of the response in areas such as infection prevention and control, case management, logistics, and psychosocial support. This really brings it down. I think myself and Donnie was it one of the first couple of weeks. We said, you know what, this will not hurt Africa. This will not be a problem for our continent. People should really understand that Africa has been through several pandemics, quote unquote pandemics. So this is really where our knowledge arises. Obviously, a lot of other prominent people didn't agree with that. We've been reading about it, but I really think that it's safe to say that we're really proud of the way that our African countries are handling it. I myself, have lost somebody that I know, a friend, and it's been really sad how these couple of last months have been winging back and forth. It's been a very surprising year. Starting every year, especially us millennials, we get to think that I'm gonna set my goals, I'm gonna go for it and do this. And this, a case like where we had to stay indoors, where we had to be on a literal lockdown, where we had to be distant from each other and even be limited in terms of having our personal celebration indoors. Nobody expected it. And even a Great Depression has been predicted. What else? All kinds of things have been predicted, obviously, because this doesn't happen as often. One of the guests that we had shared before that, we're probably the generation that are not flexible as in terms of dealing with unexpected situations. And that's probably the truth. But in all, a lot of people, as in their opinions and their experiences, have written off 2020. For all of our listeners that are out there and who will also be joining us on the show, I would really like to know how you have been coping this last couple of, let's just say, 6 months. The craziness in Europe really started from March. I remember the second week of March, a lockdown was announced, and there's where our world was turned upside down. And I would really like to know how has it been on your end, on your side of the world. Make sure that you spread the word. You engage with me, you talk to me, you let me know how everything has been going. Also, share it on your timeline. If you're listening through Facebook, make sure that you spread the word, because in about a couple of minutes, we will have our special guests on the show, and we will be talking about women about business. But don't forget that first, I would really like to know how you have been coping. And also what I would like to know on top of that, what has been on your playlist? Has there been a specific artist that you discovered or any of that you would really like us, to play? You would like for us to play their music or anything of that? Do let me know so that we can have a bit of how do they call it? We can have a bit of good mood while we are listening here on Sundays. And this is Africa on Focus. We come back to you on every Sunday evening with myself. Normally, Donnie is involved, where we talk about sharing our success stories. And we talk about what's going on our continent, and we talk about what's going on in our community. And again, we would love to hear from you on so many levels. How has this lockdown season been treating you? Has it encouraged you to go into another turn as in terms of your business? Have you followed a new workshop? Have you been able to explore your world? Have you been able to take the time out with your family? What has been happening in your world? I would really like to know. And plus, wherever from the world you are listening from, please make sure that you share with me or share with us, all of us, what you have been listening to on your playlist. Earlier, I did share a particular book, which I will share again, that I was reading on. I haven't finished it yet, but it really brought an interesting perspective on the role that Europe has played on the development, quote unquote, development of Africa. And also alongside the Black Lives Matters, it has brought a very interesting perspective on life, as I would say. And it has also brought an interesting perspective, if you ask me, on our current environment, how we judge each other, how we should treat each other, and moreover, how we can unite Black people in its right sense. You know what? Let's listen to a bit of music, and so that we come back. I see that Evan is already sharing his playlist with me. I would really love to hear what else you have been. Evan is really funny. What else you have been playing on and listening to? Let's just listen to some music. We'll be right back, and of course, with our special guests, Kimberly Ofori and Marian Spier, we're going to get into women about business. Can you handle women about business? Let me make sure my technicalities here are right. It is such a difference. When you are streaming from home, you just have one screen. That is one. You don't have the turntables and all of the peaking sounds and everything. You don't have any of that. So it's like it's you just have to adjust. Let me just put it that way. Lockdown sessions requires that we all adjust. I think that that's really a lesson that we should learn from, and that I am learning from, I would say. So please bear with me as I'm putting these things straight here on my what's it called, my mini studio that I have put on at home. Let me double check if my screen is good. Yes, it is. In a bit, we will have a lovely lady, Kimberly Ofori, with us, and we will be talking about women about business, of course. But first, let's just listen to a tune. I think you could use some good vibes, so that we will be back in a bit. And let me also make sure I remove my own. And we are back at Africa Unfocused. I just want to give a shout out to Eben because he just gave me the warning, like, we don't have sound. So that's my attempt for my home studio. And like I said, this is on a lockdown sessions where I have built some type of mini studio from home. And that mini studio is taking shape, but I have no slim or no Slim or DJ Royal with me, but we're managing, and we'll be back where we are streaming live from our studio in Amsterdam. Anyway, you are listening to Africa in Focus, and I'm your host, Miss ABBA. And today is time for our monthly segment, our monthly show that happens. I'm always excited about it because this is really the time where we get to talk to women that are making impact, and we really get to revolve the whole interview, the whole talk surrounding women that are actually making change. And earlier we announced that today we are talking social entrepreneurship. And I'm already seeing in the background, I'm already seeing Kimberly. She's already sitting ready. So let me just make sure that I get her on. And in the meantime, make sure that you spread the word on your timeline if you're tuning in from Facebook. If you are tuning in from YouTube or any of the high radio platforms, make sure that you call your mom, your auntie, everybody who is a female and who is an entrepreneur and needs to be part of this conversation. Let's get Kimberly along and let's get to talk. Hey, Kimberly, how are you?
I'm well. I'm always good to see you. When I see you, I just light up with energy. So yeah, I'm well. How are you
That's
doing?
good. That's that entrepreneurial spirit that you just get to, encourage each other. It's like a distant, invisible force.
You're glowing though. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I can't complain. Week has gone through all kinds of craziness, but 2020 should teach everybody, and including myself, that health is the primary thing to be happy about. That's
Right.
it.
I know. Absolutely. I think it's so spot on, and we've been saying it. I think probably from like 2010 to 2000, going up to 2020. Health became very important. It became very trendy to be fit and to what
Yeah.
to eat, and but we were kind of doing it, but not really intentionally so. And now that
Yeah.
we're forced into this kind of lockdown, into this kind of doing things for our own and buying for ourselves, and really watching also our mental health and everything else, and finding out how much we do have that we should be grateful for. Probably
Yeah.
the most important one being healthy. Most of us that are watching today, that are tuned in today, we are perfectly fine with maybe
Yeah.
a few things that we don't have, but we're healthy enough to sit here, to have a conversation, to engage. And that's I believe the main thing to be grateful for, because there's so many people that don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would. I'm co-signing on that one. And how has been your Sunday?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've been trying to fight off this flu coming up, but yeah, I think for me, I had a very hectic past 2 weeks, and I was very intentional about trying making sure that I make some time for myself
Yeah.
yesterday and today, and so I did. So it's been peaceful so far.
Yeah. I hope it's you just have to kick it back
I know.
with some extra ginger or something.
Yes, I'm
Something.
figuring it out definitely.
Great, great. Well, it's definitely it's been a month. Time flies. I mean, last time we were talking about entrepreneurship and financials, and now it's to social entrepreneurship. Could you share with us how did we even come to this topic?
So really, and obviously we plan these things ahead of time, but I worked together with our guest Marian Spier on her company FEM-START,
Yeah,
and when all of this was happening, this month has really, well, June has really shed a light on also the the kind of things that still real life and real world problems that we are still needing to fix.
Yeah.
And one of those things being, how are we going to impact more lives to have better lives, better qualities and standards of living, but also how are we going to empower those who are trying to do that because they're not getting equal opportunity. And
Yeah.
so we as women are part of that group, unfortunately, still in this 21st century, where we are doing a lot of the work. We're usually on the front lines, creating, impacting, making change, making a difference. But
Yeah.
we are not seeing from the market, from the people who are in power, from the people who hold the funds and who have the money, kind of the response to that. So, and when I
Yeah.
say the response, it means, being allies, being in financial support, being fair in deciding who gets funding and who doesn't,
Yeah.
and being fair in kind of what networks you are able to flow in and to grow in. And so what really inspired me was that Marianne set out and she said, you know what, we can talk about it or we can do something about it. And she set out to do something about it, which you will see when she introduces herself, has been doing over the course of her career. Seeing a problem, it not being handled by the people who probably should be, who have more power and influence than we might think we have, and then
Yeah.
taking it on. And so she started this accelerator for women, and she will tell us more about that. But
Yeah.
we need to start, and Vivian just said it, like great minds think alike. We need to be our own sponsors, right? So instead of us saying, we're going to look at people who are already established and try to get into that with them, which we have been doing for decades, to remind
Mm-hmm.
some of you. Now it's time for us to stand up and be our own advocates and be our own sponsors and be. So Marianne was able to get to a certain point in her career where she can now reach down and help other women come up. So this is really how we got here, and I'm super excited to discuss this. It's such a timely topic and so important.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So there has been tons of conversation that has been going on. That's what I'm hearing.
Right. Absolutely.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I'm going to announce our special guest that we have here. But before we do that, we have like some of our loyal listeners that have just tuned in. Vivian Aqua, who is interacting with us. And she's saying, you know what? Also, we need to rise up and speak up. We need mentors and sponsors. I'm loving the energy, Vivian. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Eben Awa, also a shout out to you. That's my manager from UK, who's always supporting, doing even more than supporting. He's pretty much bringing in the people that some of the most impactful people that we've had here on the show. He's been bringing them in. Shout out to Nene McRich, Nene Kwesi, who are all listening. Do share it on your timeline that we are having a Women About Business moment. The lady that I'm going to introduce, or Kimberly, should I give it to you, or can I give the official? I will
You do
let
the
you make the
honor.
decision.
You do it so much better than I do. Please go ahead.
Okay, well, here is a woman of true impact, international impact, as we would say it. I know her. I've heard her name dropped many times, and even from our motherland, Ghana, because even there she is making her impact on her own. And let's just say she is a multitasker. That's how I would call her, a social entrepreneur, consultant, CEO, and founder of TEDxAmsterdamWomen and FEM-START, which is an organization that Kimberly also just mentioned that she is part of, which is an accelerator program for women entrepreneurs. All that she does embodies women entrepreneurs, the strength of women and the possibilities of women, and all they could do, from industries such as tech to public speaking and so much more. Let's just get her on. And if you can welcome her in the comment, give her a welcome, give her a shout out, anything of that. Let's welcome Marian Spier. Hello.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Can you hear me clearly?
Loving
Yes,
the hair.
absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I went to the hairdresser yesterday,
Everybody is glowing on this show today.
Oh,
That's that true female power that is needed on everyone's screen.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
How have you been, Marian? How has been your Sunday?
My Sunday was quiet. I rested. I went to Dutch Island this week, the Finland. Very nice to rest, but I work constantly, so I was exhausted when I came back. So I have to go on another vacation, but I'm fine. Yeah.
No, not from a vacation.
Yes.
That is hilarious and so typical for entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
To still be working at your end, but that's really how a true boss makes things happen.
Yeah, and also because everything is online, all the meetings, you cannot say, I'm not available, you can plug in. Yeah, so that is, I can't complain. I had a great Sunday today. Yeah, very restful for this hectic week coming up. Yes.
Awesome.
Love
So,
that.
Marian, we obviously are so excited about you. And
Thank
for
you.
those that don't know who you are, could you please tell us who you are, what you do, that?
Yes. So I was born in Amsterdam, but my parents went back to Suriname because they said that for them it was important to raise their children there. And then I came back to study. And I have a background in communications and education. I worked at advertising agencies, and then I became a manager at the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam for 8 years. After those 8 years, I thought I really need to do something else. So I became an entrepreneur. And first, I was managing a few cultural institutions. And then I started consulting, mostly UN organizations internationally, but also governmental institutions. And now, what I'm doing now is mostly consulting. I have FEM-START, so I founded FEM-START last year, and I'm in the board of the Van Gogh Museum and the Van de Ende Foundation.
Wow,
Doing
doing a lot and so much experience and so much to tap into.
Yes,
Absolutely
yes.
fabulous. I love
I'm ready to share. I'm ready to share.
Absolutely. So could you tell us a little bit more about that transition from being a manager at a university and then deciding to go into entrepreneurship? What was it? Because you could have also said, I'm going into a different industry. Why did you choose entrepreneurship and how did that go?
Well, because a lot of people said you are an entrepreneur, and I was like, no, I have a nice job, I'm making money. I don't need to, I could become a director instead of just being a manager. But then in 2009, I went to a TED conference in TED Global. It was a big conference, international conference. And I met so many inspiring people who were changing the world and making money. And I was like, okay, so you can inspire people's lives, change people's lives, and still make money. And then I jumped. I said, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to start my own business. And the moment I said it, I had so many clients. That is also a danger, you start working because you're so used to the salary. So you need to, accept the clients and then you find your own rhythm. But it is there where it started. There's a lot of very influential entrepreneurs I've met all over the world, from China, Greece, the US, who inspired me to do it. And also because I saw women, like female entrepreneurs at that time. In the Netherlands, I didn't see them that much. I'm talking about 10 years ago. They were not that visible. And there I could see like real founders, not people who like I come from wealth, but just women who just set up their own companies and became successful, talked about their struggles, but were still successful. So yes, that inspired me to start my own business. And it wasn't easy because You're so used to the salary every month. Every month you have your salary, and it was a nice salary, and yeah. But still, I thought, no, I need to do it, and I just need to learn how to manage my own finances differently.
Right.
As an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, it's so important to learn how to manage your finances.
I love that. It seems that, most of the jobs that you just mentioned have an international character. Either it's abroad or something. How did that come about?
I don't. That at the first time I started, that is in the 90s. I worked at a insurance company, and then I said I can translate documents, and then they said, well, we don't have anybody for the international department. Do you want to work on the internet? I said okay, and that's how it started. Then every time I said I want to do something internationally, it is not that somebody asked me to do it. Most of the time I said, okay, I want to offer my part, and
Yeah.
then that job was created.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe as women, especially Black women, we have so many talents because our parents pressured us to be 10 times better.
Yeah.
So we have to
Absolutely.
show those other 9 skills at their jobs.
Yeah.
And that's what I've
Absolutely.
always done. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So where did you just because just listening to you, it seems that you've always learned to create an opportunity for yourself. How do you recognize which opportunities are there around? I mean, I think it could be quite difficult for somebody who comes in somewhere you wanting to be just as good. That is pressure number one. Booking results is pressure number two. How do you even identify the opportunities there around, and where do you take the boldness to be like, hey, I think this should be done?
Yeah, so I think within a company, it's important to network. So if you're an employee, you're not an entrepreneur. It is good to network within the organization with other colleagues and listen to what's going on, what the opportunities are, to be on top of mind of people, and also share your drives and what you really want in life. Sometimes we're just so happy with the 9 to 5, and we don't share what really inspires us. So if you also share that with your colleagues, saying, "Hey, I want to do something internationally. I love languages," you're on top of mind of people, and they will think, "Oh, there's a job there. Maybe you should try it," and then somebody can sponsor you and promote you within the organization. And that's the same with businesses. You need to have your elevator pitch when you're talking to people, that people are aware about what you are, capable of, and what you can offer. For me, I didn't have any issues during this Corona crisis with clients. I even had more clients.
Yeah.
I Everybody I talked to, I would just, and I wasn't like active in sales. Like, people were just approaching me, said, "Hey, I have a problem, could you solve it?" Because as an entrepreneur, you solve problems. And of course, you need to be a specialist, you need to be good at what you are, so that people can say that, "Oh, you have to hire this person to solve this problem for you." So there are many ways to find these opportunities, but you have to speak up.
This is Marianne. I have to chip in because this is something that I have been discussing. If you've seen any, I don't do many interviews, but if you've seen any of the things that I say when they ask me about, what do you think is the number one problem of holding women back? And I will not say the glass ceiling. I will say that we are afraid to ask for what we want and say what we want. And I think this is such an important thing that you mentioned, that you are the living proof of how it turns out when you do speak up. There is so much power in knowing, firstly, understanding what you're good at, then knowing where you want to go, even if you don't know exactly, kind of like this is what interests you. And then being able to find, voice out what you're trying to achieve, and then tell the right people. And this is something that women ask me all the time. They're like, I want to, I have ambition to become a manager, but if I tell them now, maybe they feel like, and then they go with the maybe, which is how women are, right? We think ahead. We look to the future. We try to read other people's minds, thoughts that
Yeah.
never existed. And then we just we talk ourselves out of opportunities before we even know if we could have gotten there. So my question to you is this something that you trained yourself to do? Is this something somebody told you that you should
Yeah.
have, maybe you've seen it, or is it something that you just felt like you should be doing to succeed?
Yeah, so I also read a lot of books. I have a lot of mentors. I don't do this alone. I always believe as women, you need to have a tribe.
Yeah.
Women and men that support you in everything you do, that you can go to them and talk to them. So, but you also need to have a strategy. So that is also I've learned from a book, to have a life strategy and think about, okay, where will I want to, where do I want to be this year, or where do I want to be in 4 years or 5 years or 10 years? I
Yeah.
think first to have a strategy is important, and then discuss it with your mentors, the people around you can trust, and can show you the way. Like, it isn't easy. It's not that, I was like that it was nothing. There were some waves, of course, like when you
Yeah.
saw in the ocean, but still I believe also the people who have done it before. One thing I've learned is, I was listening to a speaker, and he said, when you surround yourself with only with people you need to help, something is wrong. You need to be surrounded by people who can help you, who know much more than you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I always did. Every step I made, I surrounded. And sometimes you're in a space that you're like, oh my God, I don't know anything. But
Yeah.
then you learn again. And every time you learn again, you go into another space and you grow in another space. And also don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and tell people, like, I don't know how to do this. Could you explain it? Could you help me out? How should I take this next step? And when you have that attitude, people will be willing to help you. Then you don't even have to ask. Then they'll say, hey, I have this for you. I can help you with that. Do you need anything? I'm thinking about you. So I
Yeah.
think a strategy, being vulnerable, have the right mentors, a tribe, people that support you, family. Yeah, that helps. Yes.
Right. So many gems that were dropped. I want to play kind of devil's
Absolutely.
advocate on one of the things that you mentioned. So there was a study performed in the United States that
Mhm.
did research how staff and management responded to women being vulnerable and voicing out that they needed help versus how they responded to men. And well, I don't have to finish my sentence. Like the women were disadvantaged at many points. They were seen as incapable. They didn't have leadership skills. They were insecure. They were not fit for their role. Men were seen as strong for voicing out, reaching out, and asking for help and being proactive. So knowing this, how do you strategically do this? Because I can imagine, and I've experienced it myself, that you shouldn't be doing it in every space and with everyone.
Absolutely. You need to do it with people you can trust,
Right.
and you have a relationship with. And if you're a manager, you shouldn't do it with the people you manage. You should do it with, like, the director you trust.
Right.
So there should always be, and that is why I said you have to start with a strategy, because if you have this strategy, you know who you should talk to. Like, if your strategy is you want a promotion to go higher, you don't go to the director who think that you will go after his
Take his
job.
job.
You will
Yeah.
go to somebody, yes, and you go to somebody who is on that same level and talk to that person.
Mm,
So it's and uh, being vulnerable doesn't mean that you need to cry. Being vulnerable means you just ask for help, and you
yeah.
say, and doesn't come. You don't come from a weak space. You
Yeah.
can be very strong and ask for help, and just say, hey, I want to reach this and that. How should I do that? That is also vulnerability. The thing is that a lot of women don't even do that, so they don't ask for anything, because we're so used to doing everything by ourselves, especially Black women. We don't ask. We do it, and then
Yeah.
know, We're never depressed. We don't have any stress. Which is not true.
Marian is gonna let us go into stuff we don't have the time for.
Yeah.
Wow. I know. Yeah. No, I thank you so much, because I think there's a lot of women who are kind of, even if you do understand that you need to be doing all of these things, you also, and
This
you are somebody
particular
who
problem.
reads and follows all of
Mhm.
these kind of research and topics, you also feel like, okay, so how do I then do this? But I thank you for clarifying, it's all about strategy. It's all about being very intentional with who you are speaking to and for what.
Yeah, you need to have a vision for your life. You need to know where you're going. Like when I started, I didn't have a vision. It is not that you know immediately where you're going. Your vision grows while you grow older. And also, your vision grows when you expand the group of people you interact with. So, the moment your vision starts to grow, also your community, your tribe changes, because you need people you can talk to who will understand and support your vision.
Yeah.
And then you start moving forward, and then you'll have the supporters and the mentors and the coaches and your tribe and your sponsors who will help you further. So it's a process. It's not that it happens, and that is also the thing in this time, that everybody thinks things happen immediately. It's not like The Voice or
Right.
it takes years and years to build and also to understand yourself, to think about how you act, reflect on your own actions. Like, what did I do well? What do I need to improve about myself to go to that next level? And what I've seen, I've been involved, especially also with Black women, and a lot of times people say, I don't know how to go to that next level. But it is because the vision is not clear. The moment you have the vision, you can go to that next level.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's very important to lay that out, have a strong vision before you embark on getting on a new
I don't hear.
role. To know is at which point, because from all of your experiences, where did social entrepreneurship then step in? You know,
Yeah. So when I left the university, after I left the university, I just started working because I needed to make money. But then a friend of mine asked me, like, I want to promote you, but what do you really do? And I couldn't explain, like, I'm consulting. And then she said, yes, of course you're consulting, but what, which niche? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I sat down with a friend. I said, can you please help me to clarify and help me what I'm doing, like really doing? And we sat down like for 3 hours, and we really worked on my pitch, like what makes me happy. And then I discovered, like, I'm happy when I see people thrive and when I see communities change and lives are changing. That is where I then is when I'm happy, but I need to make money. So
yeah,
I brought those two things together. So I said, and that's when I found out, like, I'm a social entrepreneur. So
Right.
it's commerce and the social cause, like improving people's lives, but also in a commercial way.
mm,
So you didn't actually set out to become a social entrepreneur. It wasn't
No,
something that you intentionally did. So
not in the beginning, no.
not in the beginning, right? So then you realize, okay, probably this is what you're doing and this is what you want.
Yeah.
mhm.
There are people who hear social entrepreneurship and hear charity. They hear
Yeah,
goodwill. They hear, people who are never gonna make a lot of money. They just want to, live out of their caravan and do good. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about social entrepreneurship now that you've been doing it for such a long time?
yeah,
So that is a misconception, that is a misconception that that you don't make money. Because there are so many. Every company has how do you call that, social
Social
corporate responsibility.
responsibility, right?
yeah,
Yeah, and they have budgets. So they have large budgets. So yeah, they hire me to create programs for them, and
Mm.
that is a way to do that. For instance, the projects I did for the UN were not for free, but still I helped improve people's lives. So yeah, and everything I do, I work a lot for the government, for the city of Amsterdam. I work for the Ministry of Economic Affairs. These are all large projects, but still, it's all social entrepreneurship because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
connected to a social cause. So, and that doesn't mean everybody has to do it the way I did it, because I love consulting and come up with creative solutions to improve people's lives. But there are other ways. So that is why I also started FEM-START, because that is just my own thing, like my own project, my own business to help improve women's lives. And then it's another way. Then you have to start with raising funds and looking for investors. So there are different ways to be a social entrepreneur. You can be the consultant, but you could also be the founder. The founder part is the hard part. That's where you really need to work on your network, to find the right people, to help you build the business, and also find the means to support the business.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I really love that. So one thing that I would like to know, because once people hear entrepreneurship or starting a business, they know, okay, it's hard work. It's probably most of the time a male-dominated industry, depending on which industry it is. But when it comes to social entrepreneurship, it kind of has a different image, just like Kimberly said. Um, what are still some of the challenges within social entrepreneurship that you endure or go through or you run into on 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 a weekly or a reoccurring basis?
So what from the consulting side, I don't have problems because I've built a portfolio and it's very easy. But from the like the FEMSTAR, the business, you really have to be very clear on what your added value is. Like, why would somebody invest in you? And that takes time. So that is, almost evangelizing your business, like really explaining in very simple
Yeah.
ways why people should invest in your business, and that is not easy. It is not easy, but it works. I last week I gave a presentation, and every time I talk to people, I have an elevator pitch. So even if when I'm consulting, I will talk about FEMSTART so that it stays in their head. Everywhere they see me
I
now,
love that.
they know that, oh yes, it's about
Yeah.
FEMSTART. So but it takes time. It's not that easy. So that is why I believe in multiple streams of income, because we're especially, and it's not only for social entrepreneurs, for any entrepreneur, you should not bet on one horse. You should have more ways
Yeah.
to make money. And of course, the founding part, the FEMSTART, is the hardest part to raise money now. But the moment it's gonna, when the money's there, then you can move fast, and you have your other stream of income that can support us, can take care of other
Yeah.
business in your life. Yes.
And it takes off the pressure off of one thing, and probably the pressure that we put on ourselves as well,
Yes.
having wanting to achieve something or bills to
Yes.
pay
Yes.
within a particular frame of time. And I think it's also helpful for people that really want to strategize. It takes some pressure off your shoulders. You can just sit down and be like, what direction am I going on this year or next period, or any of that. So one thing that I really love, because you speaking so relaxed, you're really determined. You're like, network, have your vision, have your plan. At what point do you know, okay, these are the people I should be around? This is what I should do. How do you know when you are making the right decisions? What's the sign?
Uh, you have to trust your gut. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you. You know that you know that you know. And most of the time, we don't listen to that voice, that inner voice that is telling us, because that is That is the fun part of entrepreneurship, but also the dangerous part when you don't listen to it.
Yeah.
And and the people, like, you build that. What is also very important is to build relationships. So what I see a lot is that people come and then they immediately want to cash in, want to make money out of that relationship, but it doesn't work that way. It takes time. You build that relationship, and sometimes it goes very fast. You get that project, but another time it doesn't. Then you just move along, and it could be 4 years, 5 years, and then suddenly somebody says, "Hey, I was thinking about you," and there is the project.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes time. It is not, but it's a fun, but it's very, yeah, fun thing to do.
I feel like this is such an important thing that you mentioned, because I don't think people realize enough how much seeds you need to plant before you see results. And also that
Yeah.
seeds don't grow overnight. You need to water it, the soil needs to be overturned. Like, it takes time. And so for us to, I think social media and the World Wide Web has some part to play in this, because we're constantly every day being confronted with seemingly overnight successes. And then we are also very much headline readers now, because there's so much content. So now we only read a headline: this startup
Yeah.
founded whatever in 2018, got 30 million. Well, they were founded in 2018, but they were working on it for maybe 8 years before that time. And so I'm the person, I would go and read, like, okay, what was the process here, right? But
Yeah.
many of us won't. And so we have this kind of feeling of pressure that, I must be doing something wrong if I'm not seeing instant results. And
Yeah.
every time I'm speaking to seasoned entrepreneurs, I'm now learning that no, if you those that are successful, they used years and years to build relationships, to understand exactly what they're good at, to learn, to grow, to expand. And so I feel
Yeah.
as though now, and this is why I wanted to do Women About Business, have in-depth conversations with people who have been through the process or are still building,
Yeah.
because it shows you the real life. It shows you exactly the steps that you need to take, and it doesn't sugarcoat it. I don't like, it when we have like success stories without the journey. So thank you so much for mentioning that. And you also touched on something very important, which is funding, raising funds and having, your finances. And one of the,
Yeah.
I think, is ironic is, at one hand, you are helping women to also get to the stage where they are, in a position to raise funding themselves because they have their businesses in order. And the other hand, you're in the middle of it yourself, as you are a founder, and you constantly have to be building those bridges and making those relationships. Have you seen that in social entrepreneurship specifically, but also as a woman? So that's actually two questions. That it is harder and how is it harder than to raise funds?
As a black woman, even.
I
Yeah,
wasn't gonna say it, but
another hurdle. Yeah. Yeah, well, the thing is, I've been in this business for many years. So for me, it's not that difficult. Honestly, it's not that difficult because I've proven I have I have built things before. So people know me, when I
Yeah.
talk to them, they say, "Yeah, you built before." But your question was, is it difficult to
Yeah.
raise funds? It is not easy, of course, but
Yeah.
you need to understand the mindset of an investor. You need to understand, why would somebody invest their money in your business. So you have to make the product as attractive to them, and that is something I help people with, and I know how to do it. So it is not. I have to be honest. For me, it's not that difficult. So, but yes,
so
because that was your question.
yeah,
If
and
it's
thank you for that answer. I think I want to then go deeper and say, okay, look, now that we know that if you have built your portfolio, it helps, and also if you
Mhm.
understand how to ask and who to ask. If you are not a social entrepreneur, and you have been able to help people with their pitches and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
How do you then, have you seen a difference between women raising money if they are social entrepreneurs and those that are doing something that is more seen as being more profitable in perception?
It is harder. It is harder.
Right.
And what I tell them is to persevere, because that is the only way, you know? And the moment they raise the money, then they say, "Oh, Marian, now I understand what you mean." I said, "Yeah, I told you. It takes time. It
Yeah.
takes time, but you have to believe, you know, in what you're doing." And that is, I think, yeah, an issue with a lot of entrepreneurs. You know, then you get disappointed. Somebody that didn't give you the money, or they didn't even dare to look at you, because that
Yeah.
can happen.
Very painful.
It's very painful. But then
Yeah.
you go, you know, you push further. You start building your network. You share the story, because they cannot kill your enthusiasm, and they cannot kill your, you know, your ideas. It is you
Yeah.
are the one who can do that. So and that's what I tell them is, look for, if plan A doesn't work, start looking for plan B. If plan B doesn't work, start looking for plan C. That's the only way. And every entrepreneur does that. Even if you look at the founder of Apple was a Syrian man. You know, he was an Arabic man. Do you think it was easy for him? I doubt that, you know, in a country
Yeah.
where, you know, people with a different background are not, you know, welcome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
yes, and we have to understand that, but he didn't give up. So that is very important to, of course, I always say I'm going to give a lecture in August to the group Digital Africa about creative problem solving in this world, in this post-COVID society.
Yeah.
You constantly have to come with creative solutions. And that is from the plan A to the plan B to the plan C to the plan D, you know, until you hit it and you're like, "Oh, yes, I got the money." And, you know, and that joy of raising the funds after the struggle is the greatest joy.
Right. Right. It's the biggest type of satisfaction that you can get.
Yes.
Definitely. I love that. I love how you're able to kind of like connect the dots, and from your own perspective, as well as your experiences with other entrepreneurs have helped you shape some type of backbone or some type of strong mindset for you to be the person that you are, basically. I know this is not a question that was listed, but I just want to know, now you know you have this distinct name. People know you. They know this is Marian Spier. If you're going to talk to her, you're talking to the one and only. How has been the process of establishing that? Was it a purposeful process where you was like, okay, I intentionally want to be known for this and this and that? Or did it come to you as you delivered the good job that you always did?
It's both. So always deliver the good job. That's the first job I had at KPN. It was many years ago.
Yeah.
And the manager, he was a very influential manager within the company. Said, "People know about you because you always deliver, you know, and that's a brand. You are then you become a brand." But the branding itself was intentional, yes. So I know exactly what to say. But that's what I said in the beginning. That's about your strategy.
Yeah.
What is your strategy? So the strategy is connected to the branding. The strategy is I want to become a social entrepreneur. I want to help female entrepreneurs. You know, I want to do things with entrepreneurship. That is your brand. And that should be intentional. So every time I talk to somebody, if it's in the media or whatever, I will stick to those three things. So it is important to have that elevator pitch, not just talking to people, but even when you're being interviewed, don't go like, you know, say 6, 7 things and people don't know what you stand for, but keep it short and to those three topics and go in depth into that information about yourself. So it is, yes, it is very intentional.
Mhm.
Yes.
I love that.
But I have a communications background, so it was also
Yeah,
easy for me. But if you don't have that background, look for people who can help you with that.
it comes naturally.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah.
Love that.
Love that. So, in the meantime, for all of you who are listening, I just want to give a shout out to a few people that are engaging with us at this moment. At first hand, I was like, you know what, let me drop some type of video as way of advertising. But since my technical mishaps, I will just leave that alone. I give a shout out to Sean Chloe, who says, "Ladies, get yourself a mentor, FEM-START, Fempreneur Help. .nl is here to help. We are open and ready to help you.
That
Thank you for that."
that
Vivian,
is part of the team.
oh, that's it. That's the spirit.
Representing. I love it.
That's the
Yes, yes.
spirit. And also shout out to Vivian Aqua, who is so much engaging with our conversation. As she said, planting seeds is a vital, very much so. Very plays a very vital role in all that we do. We're talking to Marian Spier, and she is the woman that knows about entrepreneurship and so much more. And I really would like for you to feel free to drop questions, remarks that you have, so that we could pick that up. In, let's say, about 5 minutes, we'll be picking up the questions that are here. And also share it on your timeline on Facebook. If you're listening through YouTube, do share the link because this is info. You should be having your notes ready as of now. um, I would really like to know from you, because I know we have some questions that we still need to chip in. Marian Spier, your work on the continent. I know you are playing so many influential roles on the continent. Could you share a bit about that? What you're doing? What's in the works?
Yes. So we started with FEM-START. I started with FEM-START Africa. And then the first country I went to, because I knew a few people there, is Ghana. And what we did, we wanted to test if if people were really waiting for this. So first we had a conversation with a group of female entrepreneurs, and we asked them, and they said, yes, we are really looking for mentors to help us go to that next level. Also, it was very difficult for the female entrepreneurs to raise funding, to get a loan, and how to do that, how to build their business. So we did a survey amongst the female entrepreneurs, and what we've seen, there were three groups that were very active. Female entrepreneurs in Ghana specialized in food, skincare, and fashion, of course.
Right.
And what we discovered is that a lot of them, their companies are not tech enabled, so it stays on a small business level, and it was very difficult for them to scale. So that's what we're working on. Kimberly was also is also coaching one of the winners, because we wanted to test it with one winner and see how it goes. And what we
Yeah.
discovered is mostly a mindset thing. And the entrepreneurial mindset is different than the small business mindset. And we're
Right.
working on that. So we now be in the process of creating a program. And I had a call with a friend of mine who set up, I am the coach. She's from Senegal, and she's going to help us set up the online platform, because she's used to working with female entrepreneurs in the continent, and set up a mentoring program for them. But the goal
Right.
is access to funding. It is not just the mentoring, the helping. It
Yeah.
is how, like, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? What does it mean to persevere? When the nice job comes along, are you still going to be that entrepreneur, or are you going to for that nice job? So that's
Yeah.
what you see a lot. And now the next stop, today I had a call about Nigeria. So the next stop is Nigeria. And there's where we're going to, because what you see, of course, there are 54 countries in Africa, and they're not the
Yeah.
same. A lot of people think that. So
Yeah.
that's a different approach. We're going to start with a workshop first, completely different, where we had in Ghana, we had a competition. In Nigeria, we'll start with a workshop just to explain what it means to be an
Right.
entrepreneur, and not just a small business owner, but really working on the mindset part of being in business and how to raise funds. Very
Right.
simple things like when you pitch to a rich person, how do you behave? Like simple things, but those things are very important, to be taken seriously. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice. There's a group of. I'm creating a tribe there, so that's a new journey I'm taking.
Hey,
Uh,
yeah.
yes, and I must say, what I love about Black women, they will support you. When you say you're going to set up a thing, they came and everybody is willing to help and to bring this to another level. So yes.
Amazing. It's
Hmm.
I'm so excited about everything that you're doing. Obviously, and for me, I like it because as being half Ghanaian and half Suriname, I'm like, yes, now we're finally joining forces and doing something. No, because I feel like, especially, we've come a long way, even as Suriname people and, Ghanaians and Nigerians who are in Amsterdam, kind of not seeing each other as allies. And now us just bundling our forces and saying, well, they see us as one color, so why don't we? And so now actually joining
Exactly.
forces and doing things together to empower us as a community and recognizing that there's so much more strength in that. So Marianne, you have so much experience. We have so many things to talk about. Probably we should do another segment on some specific topic because there's so much more to dive deep into. I want to ask you three. I'm going to ask you four facts and or fibs. Just make statements and ask you what is your opinion firstly, and then we'll dig into the most interesting answer you have given us. And
Okay.
you don't have a lot of time to think, so the first thing that comes to mind, that's what you have to say.
Okay.
Okay, so the first statement: as a social entrepreneur, you can never grow rich.
That's not true.
Okay, having a social enterprise is the same as practicing corporate social responsibility in a large corporation.
Not true.
Real social entrepreneurship is never for profit.
Not true.
Most social entrepreneurs do not care much about business.
Sometimes.
You're dancing on that one. If you have to choose, fact or fib?
I think like if they start understanding what entrepreneurship really is, then they change. There is a change now happening about like regarding social entrepreneurship. Before it was more charity work and people didn't get it, but now I must say since 2018 people are starting to understand what it really means. So but you have a large group of people who have a charity and they call themselves a social entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, but that's not social entrepreneurship.
No.
But that's not social. So I really want to elaborate on that one because I think that this is probably where most of the confusion comes from. You see
Yeah.
all of the people running NGOs or having non-profit organizations and then also calling themselves social entrepreneurs. And so I am not surprised that a lot of people view that as being social entrepreneurship because
Yeah.
there are more of those than that I know of, people who are actually doing things for profit and
Mm,
calling themselves social, probably not even calling themselves social entrepreneurs. They're just calling themselves entrepreneurs.
yeah,
Entrepreneurs.
So my
that's true.
question, Darren, is are real social entrepreneurs the ones not labeling themselves as social entrepreneurs
Most
intentionally?
intentionally, yes, because they don't know how to explain the term. But for me, because I work on an international level, it's a clear for my
Yeah.
branding. It is important. I do that
Mhm.
because I work with a lot of governments. And if I position myself as an entrepreneur, then for them, they will think that you're not doing this to help others, So, but Most of them call themselves just a venture, but they like it's social entrepreneurship. But
Right.
they don't call themselves a social entrepreneur. That's true, yes. And a lot of people who have charities call themselves social entrepreneur, but it isn't social entrepreneurship. That is not true.
Right.
It is a combination of commerce and social cause, and that is social entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And having an NGO, you're not working for profit. You know, you just yeah. That is have when you're an NGO. That is even a legal entity. You cannot. You're not
Yeah.
allowed to make profit.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have an. I don't have a charity. I don't have a foundation.
Right. 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 Well, thank you so much for clearing that up. I
Yeah.
think we have some questions that Agustina, perhaps you could
Sure.
light on.
Sure, we have that. Well, first we do have a shout out from a male, Hamid Rahman, who's saying, "I like your discussions. It helps a lot," and that comes from a male, so that's that's nice. Let's look at a question from Vivian Aqua, who's saying, "Question for Marian: What advice would you have given yourself, your 30-year-old self? What
Oh,
advice
that is
and
now,
why?"
right? You're 30 now, right?
I
You
wish
look
I
30.
am not. And Vivian knows. No. What advice would I've given my 30-year self? At that time, I was working at the Ministry of Verkeer en Waterstaat, travel, yeah, infrastructure. And what would I? Yeah, I was trying too hard. You know, I was trying too hard to be perfect. And
Mhm.
what I've learned is, you know, not everybody will accept you. So I've learned to live with that. So I'm never bothered by gossip or what people think of me. You know, I don't care about that. But when I was 30, I was really worried about what people would think, how I should move. And then you're not relaxed. And now
Yeah.
I don't care. And it also helps being in the business because sometimes you have a client and you don't agree with the client.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to do it perfectly, then you're going to please the client and don't do a good job. But now I give feedback to the client and say, I don't think this is the right way to address this problem.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that is when I was 30, I would never, like, I would just execute.
Right.
That is for a 30-year person. And it's good to do it. You learn from that.
Right. Right.
Valuable advice. I think a lot of us can learn from that still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could learn from that. I must say, as being well, 31 ish, I, I must say that, to get to that point of being bold enough to be like, you know what, this might be my task, but I don't think it's going to work. I think it does need a type of experience. You know what I mean?
Of
I
course.
I do, because if I compare myself to some of my colleagues that I've been around who have been able to say that, I'm like, well, you have really learned from life in its fullness.
Yes, yes, yes. It takes time. It's not. That is why she asked when I was 30. But I know,
The
and
skill
I've
of
learned not to say, like, not to give the feedback immediately to the client, but really
Right,
think. Sometimes it takes me 2 weeks to think about it before I answer,
right.
but I do it. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Takes a bold step. And also, why would you give that advice to your 30-year-old self? What would you do different if you would be standing beside yourself and be like, don't even worry about about what you're
Because I
doing.
was too stressed sometimes when something like because when you just execute, when there's a problem, the
Yeah.
employer said you have to execute and it goes wrong, and then you're too hard on yourself, but it would not work out. And if the moment you would say, let me think about this problem, let's talk to the manager and say, hey, I don't think this will work.
Yeah.
And if you when you're 30, you cannot explain it also why it will not work. So that is also a problem. And yeah, it would have made life so much easier. I would like, yeah, not to be too stressed and too perfect. But I must say, the whole being perfect also helped me in my career.
Hmm.
I love that.
No, I think to me it makes perfect sense what you just said, because I think I'm at a stage where I'm transitioning from understanding that yes, I want to deliver good work, near to perfect results, but not at any cost. And so I am now at a point where yes, if I feel like what you're saying is bull, I'll call you out on it and tell you, look, do this differently. But at the same time, when I do feel like this is something we can work with, I make sure that I execute it to the best of my abilities. And I think that is where the difference lies. It's when you're just, like you said, being somebody who executes, you are never going to be able to do your best job if you don't really stand behind it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely. I agree. And also a question from Mensa Gary, last question that we pick up on. My question is, when a man cares too much,
Laughing.
does that when my question is, when a man cares too much, does that make him soft? And I think this question arose when Kimberly pointed out,
The
what was the
vulnerability
example?
at work.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. When
yeah,
a man cares, no, it makes him strong. I think I've had managers who really took care of us, male managers who had a lot of empathy, and they were the best teams, like, because you were able to go to him and be vulnerable and say, hey, I don't think I'm going to make it, can you help me out with this?
hmm
And I think when a man cares, is I don't believe in too much, in a
yeah,
company.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, and like you said, it shows strength. But what we have learned, if we have learned anything about leadership, especially if you want to lead the next generation, is that you need to be accessible and transparent and real. And
Yeah.
so all of those things can only be shown, or I think one of the ways you show that is by showing that yes, you care, but also that you make mistakes, that you're a human being, and that also invites other people to respond to you in the same way. So now
Yeah.
we're seeing this whole new wave of leadership skills where now we're not telling them like leadership means that you know how to, get the right figures out every month, you know, in any through any means necessary. Now it's like, how do you get people motivated to get you those results?
Yes. Especially in this time where everybody's sitting behind the screen.
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody has taken
If
one
you have a
position to work
manager
from.
who doesn't care, you're not going to work hard. You're going
Hmm.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah,
So true.
so true. Woof, look at the time. When the good conversations take place, the time just flies. Marion, what I would really like to know from you, and I think this counts for every entrepreneur out there, something that I could work on is like, what would be your advice as to managing the many tasks that you're on, the many job positions? What is your advice as to managing it all from week to week? Because I definitely could use some advice for my hectic schedule as well.
All of us.
Yeah. So what I do, I organize. Like, I organize everything. Like, every meeting, every social gathering, I have it planned. You have Google Schedule to do that, Google Calendar. So that's the digital organizing part. But also, things that if I'm not making money, I'm not going, like, from the business part. I'm not doing it. I'm like, okay, no. I see.
Yeah.
I also said to Kimberly, all these webinars. Did you see me doing any webinars? No, I'm making money. Like, I don't have time for that.
I love that. And
Yeah,
seriously,
yeah.
you did say that to me.
Every week, people are asking me to do a webinar. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that because I have to make money. I'm an entrepreneur, and nobody's going to take care of me. So
You're so
I'm
right.
really, you have to set your priorities straight. And your
Absolutely.
priority as an entrepreneur is how am I going to make money now in this COVID time, and focus on that first. And then, of course, the giving back, like I mentor a lot of people for free. That's a different thing, that is the giving back to the community. But doing things that will not lead to anything, no, I don't. So that is why my schedule is not, I have a lot of things to do, but my schedule is not full. It's planned. Tomorrow I'm going to a movie premiere with somebody. I have the time to do that. After that, I have a call with the US. That's making the money part, but I planned it.
Yeah.
So first organizing and then everything, you don't make money. And it's not if you have the strategy and you say for you say I want these three things I want to reach, and everything that's connected to that, um, and you don't make money out of that, you can plan. Everything that does not fit into those three things, you should
Yeah.
not do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we're doing now, especially in this time, we're wasting a lot of time, and we're losing money
Yeah.
because we're not focused.
Yeah.
We don't
Mhm.
have a strategy, and we don't think about, okay, where do I want to be in 1 year?
Yeah.
I think we need to do a segment about focus and strategy. Seriously, because this is so important. And I think that if we're looking at your journey and all that you have achieved, a lot of the
Yeah.
things that we keep hearing back is you were focused and you had a strategy. And so I think a lot of us can learn so much from doing just that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that everybody should look at this and take their notebook, because this is going to push them forth a long way in their entrepreneurial journey. Well, as time is flying and as we're rounding up Women About Business, I stand to be corrected. Um, Marian, do you have any last words for especially the Black female entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs out there that you would like to push them forward with?
Um, don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid
Mm.
to take risks. Don't be afraid to step out. Don't be afraid to connect with people you don't know that are out of your comfort zone. Look out for like-minded people. Well, maybe not like you, but they're not the same, but they have the same mindset as you.
Yeah.
And support yourself with a group of mentors and a tribe. We have a platform called entrepreneurship.nl for the Dutch-speaking Black women listening, to help them out with that. But I think the thing is, most of the time, because we're not raised that way, we are not raised to take risks. We are raised to nurture and take care of people. We're not raised to step out and move and go for it. And so I think to be open to others that have that same mindset and learn from them, I think that can bring you to unexplicable heights.
Wow, those are so inspiring and valuable words. Thank you so much for that,
You're
Marianne.
welcome. You're welcome.
And again, thank you so much for making some time out in your busy schedule. From now on, just like you, I'm going to go for it. If it doesn't bring money, you're going to have to put it somewhere at the end of the list.
On that note, I'm out. I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much, Marian Spier. Last but not least, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you online?
Yes, so they can connect via LinkedIn mostly, and I'm on Instagram at my name, Marian Spier. That's where they can connect. And then we have the websites fem-start.com and fempreneurhope.nl. And I have my consulting, but that's mostly B2B. I am Marian.nl.
Look out for that. Thank you very much, Marian, our role model, our woman, power woman in business. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic week.
Thank
And
you.
ladies, I want to wish you good luck, because I know
Thank you.
it's not an easy road being a
No.
Black female entrepreneur in the Netherlands. I'm happy that you're doing. You're both very eloquent and professional. I hope this platform you have will grow and
Thank you.
become much better. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
So much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, Kimberly, that brings us to our third guest. Is it our third guest on Women About
We
Business?
have a 3-month anniversary. Yes.
3 month anniversary. Yay!
Right.
Oh gosh, and we have so many special guests listed for our forthcoming Women About Business.
So excited about this. I was really excited about this one, especially because, you know, the perfect example of, diaspora, but also like being an ally to Africa, even if you're not identified as an African, and all of those things
Mm-hmm.
combined as a woman. There's just, again, showing us how important it is for us to be connected
Yeah,
and for us to kind of be in the same space. If we have the same goals, why not work together and share our stories so that we can grow?
yeah, yeah. And I think it's also good to look at some of the possibilities, examples that are out there, so that people can have a new
Role
way of
model.
framing and seeing how collaborations, healthy collaborations, go about, where it's not anywhere related to anything negative, or some type of drama, because that's also like a Black people thing, like the trust. The trust within ourselves is also something that we could work on,
Yes.
if you ask me. So this is really refreshing to see the many facets, many ways of in which collaboration can take place within the diaspora in its full sense.
Yes. I loved it. So,
Definitely.
guys, thank you
Um,
so much for tuning in. Um,
absolutely.
I want to say a personal thank you to everybody else that has been supporting us over the past 3 months. I see that we're growing in audience and following. People actually asking, "Oh, when is the next episode?"
Yeah.
People suggesting topics, and so because a lot of the times we forget that setting up a new show or a program or whatever, it takes time for people to get accustomed to it, for
It
people to
does.
put it in their agenda, for people to even find it interesting. And
Yeah.
it's just very encouraging to see how the conversation actually continues even after we air.
Yeah, absolutely. So look forward to Women About Business. We'll be back next month, and myself and Kimberly have yet to sit down, because we might put some interesting twist in there, but that will be to be announced. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining me on here, and thanks so much for your time. We will touch base with everybody. As far as Africa in Focus, you could follow the recap on our YouTube channel. Make sure that you spread the link of this interview around your network, and have people to get in touch with us. And of course, if you have any ideas, recommendations on particular topics that you think that we should share on Women About Business, make sure that, of course, you spread the word. Again, Kimberly, thanks so much. We will be catching up with each other. What is it? Next week somewhere.
Yes.
And have a good Sunday.
Thanks, Miss Abba. Have a great evening.
And you too. Bye bye.